Good morning, CHD. Welcome to Pediatric Perspectives, where we are looking at children's health challenges from a different perspective, one that includes critical thinking, one that's not afraid to give you the honest truth. It is a privilege to have back on the show for my guest today, Dr. Samara Cardenas. Welcome back. It is so awesome to have you back.
I really enjoy telling my story.
Wonderful.
I really do, because people should listen what they have been trying to do with the COVID vaccine.
For those who might have missed that last episode, there'll be a link, obviously, to that. But Dr. Samara was in private practice for 45 years. 45 years. What happened was, in a nutshell, when the COVID thing hit and you realized that the disease itself for children was nothing, it was a cold. And not a single child in your very large practice was hospitalized for COVID, the illness, but the vaccines were clearly harming children. You saw the VAERS data and you realized this was ethically something you couldn't participate in. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about the CDC, what you've learned about it, and then you have a legal action, which I'm very happy to present to the world because you are really bringing out vital information about how wrong things have gone with our CDC. And so it either needs to be fixed or scrapped altogether. I don't know what the solution is. Hopefully with Bobby Kennedy in control of the HHS, which oversees the CDC, we can have some real change coming in the near future. You know, you started practice even before I did. I remember thinking that the CDC was the smartest of the smartest, and they have done amazing work over the decades. What's your perception of the CDC, what it was, what it is today, and then we'll get into your specific case and your lawsuit.
You know, CDC, FDA, ACIP, who sets the immunizations, the HHS, all of those organizations, I thought that the most brilliant people in the medical fields were there. As time went by, things have been different, and I have realized that there's a lot of people that are not even physicians running the show. And some of the physicians that are there should not be there. So my trust has totally changed over the last 4 or 5 years. I have to say, COVID was a very good awakening for me. I realized that they were telling me this was happening and it wasn't. So then you start questioning, if they're lying to me here, how much more have they lied through the years? I just don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So we shared that history. I used to look up to the CDC, the NIH, all those institutions that we thought really had the best of the best. But what we weren't aware of was how conflicted they were at the top. I still think there are a lot of brilliant physicians in these institutions, but when it comes to the vital issue of vaccine policy, and specifically what gets put onto the childhood vaccine schedule, that's a small committee, ACIP, that is completely unaccountable to the real science, unaccountable to the people, and they are absolutely, totally beholden to pharma. And their agenda is to promote more vaccines, to make sure vaccines get on the childhood schedule. And they refuse to look at anything else, it seems. So we really have a problem there at the CDC. And, you know, your experience with the CDC and the schedule, how did that play out in real life as a busy pediatrician?
Well, as a busy pediatrician, that is not a pediatrician anymore, because due to the requirements from ACIP and the CDC, my practice went away. So that was a big awakening last year when I got fired from the Medicaid group. But with the other things with the CDC, there is data all over the VAERS website that shows how bad the vaccines have been. And then they're coming to my office and try to preach on how good the vaccines are. They don't seem to be communicating. If people are reporting problems, why aren't we fixing the vaccines? Oh, let's wait because we're getting money from big pharma.
Mm-hmm.
I think CDC and the HHS, um, it was sold to big pharma, and I hope that through the new administration, we get it back to the way it used to be back in the 80s.
The CDC and ACIP, they have these mandates, right? Effectively, they are forcing pediatricians' hands and really forcing parents, because kids can't go to school in most states without having these vaccines. And all of this is done with rigorous, thorough, proper analysis, right?
No, there's not really a lot of analysis done. When you look at the way the vaccines have been done most of the time, there is not double placebo studies. There is not real data that says we analyze this so we can have children not having risks from this vaccine and having disease from it. So nothing has been done the way it should have been done. And I am not a scientist, but I can see when children are getting sick and when they have problems from the vaccines. I saw quite a few of those through the years, and I always thought it was just a fluke. But the more I read and the more I learn about it, the more I see that it has big pharma written all over.
Mm-hmm. Just out of curiosity, what are some of the things you saw that now in retrospect you're going, wow, that might have been vaccine related?
Way back in the 80s, this is going back to DPT when it didn't have the A for the DPT. It was just a
Yeah, the
regular.
wholesale DPT was a horrible vaccine.
And we had quite a few children having tremendous fevers and having seizures.
Yeah.
And I will call, I will report it, and I will be told it's just the way it is. But not all the children have it, and it's very important. And I believe them.
Mm.
I remember having a horrible reaction in a 13 or 14-year-old girl from HPV. She passed out after the vaccine and fell from the examining table and broke her mouth and her teeth. And of course, it got reported also to my malpractice insurance, who they pay for the dental care and all of that, because it was very new, and I believe that it was going to prevent cancer in little girls as they grow older.
Yeah.
Um, but that was after that. I kept telling the moms, think about it. Here is information, because it was just right then and there. I had to have paramedics come in. It was just quite a problem one afternoon. Uh, but they kept pushing it, and it's saying that it had no problems.
Yeah.
And then
And
we
they're
saw
still pushing it to this day.
yeah, they're still pushing it.
Yep.
There are commercials about the
Oh,
HPV.
it's
I
horrendous.
don't know if in other states, but definitely in California, we
Yeah.
have HPV commercials.
We have
It's
them in Oregon
horrible.
and all over.
Yeah.
That was the worst vaccine on the schedule, I believe, until they added the COVID shot. I had two teenage girls develop severe neurological problems. They were athletes, they were top students. They ended up not being able to barely walk. They could not function in school. Their brains weren't working right. Parents were bewildered. All the specialists were bewildered. And I had not given them a COVID shot. So I finally asked the question. These were separate occasions. Did you get any vaccines other than what we've given you here in my office? And they both said, oh, yeah, we got something at school. And the parents' mouths dropped. They had no idea these girls had gotten the HPV vaccine at school. And so parents, beware, your kids need to be advised to take no vaccines, no shots when you're at school, period. So I got a question for you. What do you think the primary issue is with the current medical system as it pertains to children?
I think a lot of it has to do with parents being told by the schools, by the government, you have to do this. Don't think about it. We've done the testing. We know it's good. It's to protect your child, and the parents believe them. I think parents need to question everything that is said to them about their children. I remember when we started the COVID vaccine problems. At that point, my third grandchild was about 10, and his school is very close to me. And I said to him, if anybody comes with a needle, call grandma. Grandma leaves the office and she'll come running and stop them, because we thought that we are going to start doing that, but it didn't happen in my area. So parents have to question, and they have
Absolutely.
to make the others listen, the teachers, the principals, the doctors, the government.
You know, as a pediatrician for 45 years, and I know we talked earlier on the first time we were together, that you did follow the CDC and the Academy of Pediatric Vaccine schedule as it grew and grew and grew and grew. We watched it grow from, very few back in the 50s and 60s to, now adding annual COVID and annual flu, and you add the pregnancy vaccines. I think we're close to 100 now. Knowing what you know now, moms who have a newborn or about to have a new baby, there's 30 plus vaccines coming at your baby in the first couple years of life. What do you think about that? Should they pause and ponder that, or just follow the directions?
I will say, do not vaccinate. Wait, get information, be sure, and when everything else fails, homeschool your children.
Well, there you have it, folks, from a pediatrician who was vaccinating for decades. When you really look, and parents, now it's up to us. We have to look, deep dive, know exactly what the risks and the benefits are for every single vaccine somebody is recommending, because it's not what we were being told. And pediatricians, parents alike, we were all hoodwinked. I want to talk briefly before we end our time together about your brave move to sue the CDC, I believe.
Yes, that is correct.
Tell me the essence of that legal action. What are you trying to accomplish?
I would like CDC to stop putting COVID vaccine in the immunization schedule for children.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to take one vaccine at a time. We can't assume they're going to take everything off. But if we can at least get rid of COVID, which seems to be the worst vaccine ever. If you listen or read Dr. Robert Malone, who developed the COVID vaccine,
The
in his
technology, the mRNA technology, yes.
the mRNA technology for the COVID vaccine, he says children, the parents need to think about vaccination with that, because the mRNA, the spike protein, will damage your brain, your lungs, your heart, and your reproductive system. So why would you put that into your child? So we do need to work one vaccine at a time, and COVID has to go. And I hope that I can accomplish that with this lawsuit.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you are doing this. Your lawsuit, you're working with Jaffe, I understand. I know him well.
Yes,
And
he's a great attorney.
he is a great attorney. He's dealt with this issue for his career. You are coming boldly declaring that what the CDC doing is capricious, it's abuse of discretion, it's not in accordance with law under the Administrative Procedure Act. And then you want to declare that the CDC's action violate the Fifth Amendment's guarantee of equal protection, because you were caring for the most vulnerable population of children in California.
Correct.
And their mandates are not providing equal protection. Can you elaborate a little bit on how that is or why that is?
Well, private patients, the ones that have a regular insurance, can pick and choose. If they don't want to have the vaccines, the pediatrician doesn't have to kind of force them on them. If you are part of the Medicaid population, which in California, I think is about, I'm totally guessing, but I will say that is 30-40% of the children in California or more are Medicaid, and they have to follow what the CDC tells us for them, because we have to have the vaccines and we have to vaccinate them. While I am not forced to vaccinate the private patients. So you're definitely having a difference according to the social standard of living of the poor population and the middle class population or rich class
Yeah,
population. And
it's
it
a
should
double
not be.
standard. No, I agree. You're discriminating against the poor. You're taking away their choices, and
That's right.
we're all about not discriminating. So why on earth would we be doing such an action that is forcing the discrimination against the poor, who we're supposedly fighting for?
Uh, can I say that maybe Big Pharma has something to do with it?
You think?
Just a little
Just
bit.
a little. Oh, you make me laugh. You also declare in your legal action that this is the CDC action. Actually, it is coercing pediatricians to act against their professional judgment. And you felt that pressure, right? I mean, by the end of it, you realized you were sacrificing your career.
I did. I went with my eyes open.
Yeah.
I knew that the possibility I was going to be fired from Cal Optima was a good possibility, and it was only a matter of time. But I had to do it. I could not do harm, because my oath was do no harm. So who am I to change my mind just because I'm old and I don't want to lose my practice?
Yeah.
So I did lose my practice because of it.
Yes. Thank you for your courage. It does
You're
take
very
courage
welcome.
to knowingly move forward in what is the right ethical thing to do, but knowing it's going to cause you great financial duress. And let's face it, you and I, all we really knew was being pediatricians. That's what, or at least that's what we loved, right? That was our passion. That was our careers. And
Yeah,
we
there's
were,
nothing else. Yeah.
yeah, we were knowingly saying goodbye to that to stand up for what was right. I love the part in your lawsuit where you are going to mandate that the CDC publicly disclose all conflicts of interest waivers granted to ACIP members, members with financial ties to vaccine manufacturers or industry-sponsored trials be barred from participating in discussions, not merely voting. This is like the likes of Paul Offit, who, is the
Yes.
pediatric MD who comes across like a lovely grandfather, and he's so well-spoken, and he's, decent looking guy. You want to listen to him. But oh my gosh, his conflicts of interest start way, way back. I mean, he had profited in the, who knows, tens of millions of dollars. Nobody knows quite how much from his patent. He was involved in making one of the rotavirus vaccines, which we talked earlier on your first show about rotavirus being pulled for 4 deaths. Well, the 2 other competing vaccines that ended up getting approved had more than 4 deaths in their trials, but they just overlooked that. So we absolutely have to get rid of all conflicts of interest, and they have to, if we even use the ACIP, it needs to be people who have no conflicts of interest and who really understand vaccine risk and proper science.
Proper science is very important. And yes, they should have not just not vote, but you should never be part of a conversation in which your uncle is big pharma.
Yeah.
It's just very wrong. And we have been doing that for many years.
Yeah. And I think the piece of information I don't think the public and even probably most pediatricians, they don't get this, is the fact that this little tiny committee, ACIP, whatever they say, and you and I watched this happen over the year after year.
Years,
Generally,
yes.
a new vaccine is added to the recommendations, and it like, bam, instantly becomes the law. And pediatricians, therefore parents, have to follow their recommendations. And you know what? You've got on there on your lawsuit, mandate that no ACIP recommendation be adopted as binding the CDC, because you've got great scientists working for the CDC and they have no real input into what this little conflicted committee does that basically promotes pharmaceutical products that haven't been properly studied for safety.
You know, I think I should have just add to my lawsuit, get rid of ACIP.
Get them all together.
I think
I
it's a little
tell you,
too late to think about that, but it
well,
should be. It should be abolished, and it should be CDC after proper testing.
yes, and thankfully RFK Jr. has already promoted the fact that any new vaccines will have to have a proper placebo and have to be long-term safety tested.
Correct.
As we alluded to in our first interview, you know, vaccine safety research is a joke. They don't use proper placebos. The tests are very brief. They only look at limited conditions. They don't look at all health outcomes, and they never compare fully vaccinated or even partially vaccinated to unvaccinated, the true placebo group, that, you know, less than
Right,
1%.
vaccinated. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's nothing like that because you have to be vaccinated if you're a child.
right.
And like you mentioned, back in the 80s, we had maybe at the most 10 vaccines by the time, because my sons grew up in the 80s. So I didn't give them any more than maybe 10 vaccines. And now I gave to my grandchildren maybe about 20, and then I stopped. Then I realized, okay, we'll figure this out because I don't want to give them any of the newer things. It's a big difference. And maybe they were not doing the good way of checking the vaccines back in the 80s, but they were not as harmful as we have found that these new vaccines are. And these
Yeah.
new vaccines, some of them are deadly.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. So I'm just reflecting and finding it interesting. My own journey went from absolute faith and trust in the CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, to the complete opposite. I don't trust them at all because I've seen the smoke and mirrors they've provided as supposed proof and research. It sounds like
Correct.
you've had a similar journey.
I did. I was a good follower for many years until uh, when you see the truth behind what is being preached to you, you cannot unseen it. Once you see it, it's there, and you got to do what's right.
Yep.
It's all about doing what's right, and in society now that doesn't seem to take place as much as it should be. You look at things and well, it's okay, it's only a little bit, it could just give him a mild paralysis and it gets better later. No, it's harmful. Get
Hmm.
rid of it.
So we together are inviting all of you who are watching, especially if you're new to this whole idea that vaccines might be causing more harm than good, that you deep dive and get this information before you choose to vaccinate your child, because you can't take it out afterwards. And I like what you said. You can't unsee what you've seen. We can't unknow what we know. And parents, take off the blinders and join
And
the join the movement that's going to allow our kids to get healthy. And I want you to close on that note. What if you had to do it over again? You've got a new grandchild coming, let's say. What would be the top few things you would advise the parents to do for a new child that's coming? Say you're just getting pregnant, or you're about to get pregnant. What would be your top few things you would want them to really consider?
No shots during pregnancy. Absolutely none. And then if you can stay home with your child, the mother or the father, I don't care. Homeschool your child or go to a school that you can not have to follow the CDC guidelines, which means vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. It will be more helpful. Also, if they are home with parents, they seem to learn better. I have had several families that homeschool, and those children did quite well through the years. So it happens, and you don't have to follow CDC guidelines if we cannot change them with my lawsuit.
I wonder if you might comment on this challenge that I see. So your population that you took care of, that was 90% on state funding Vaccines for Children program, these families don't have extra income, and they usually are both parents working. What's your advice for that group of parents who truly are living on the margin of being able to put food on the table? Because I think it's a little more difficult when you don't have any excess money to do certain things. What would you say to those parents?
I will say to those parents, look around in your neighborhood, look around when you go to church. Uh, I think I might have mentioned churches, little churches, Christian churches are having like homeschool, like a little up to like first or second grade, and they have the children do not have to be vaccinated to go. So work on having something like that, and it can be done because I have several of my patients that are low income, that the mother has stayed home, and some of the moms have been able to do uh, things at home. I have a great baker. She bakes from home, and yes, she doesn't make millions, but she wouldn't have anyway, because $20 an hour on as a minimum wage for a non-college person does not provide anymore. And you can be home with your children. They're not taught all the crazy things they were taught with the last uh, presidency, and you are in charge of your children's health and school.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I might add, because this is something that if you want to do things differently as a parent, depending on what community you live in, you need to think carefully about who you pick as your pediatrician or medical provider. The days of going to a pediatric office and then having the discussion at the 2-month well visit or some other well visit, well, we don't want any vaccines. That doesn't usually go very well unless you happen to find a lovely doctor like Dr. Samara, because most pediatricians are going to possibly even kick you out of their practice if you won't follow the CDC schedule. You will certainly get a lot of pressure, right?
Yes, absolutely. Years ago, I used to be like that. I thought CDC had been telling me the truth, and these vaccines were safe, and we could vaccinate the world. And then when I learned that it was not like that, then you start questioning. But it is you. It's hard to find a pediatrician that will put up with you not uh, having your vaccines. They usually will kick you out of their practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say to you, if you're a parent and you're in that bind, make some phone calls. Don't even go unless you know that that practice, or at least the person within that practice that you're going to see, will allow you to make the decision. They don't have to 100% back you, but they have to allow it. Because if they can't allow it because it's office policy, then why would you step foot in that office if you already know that you don't want to follow the CDC schedule? So that was just a little aside tip. What are your hopes for change? And we'll close on this. RFK Jr. is now head of HHS. What are you hoping to see in this coming year or two?
In the next couple of months, I want COVID vaccine out of the immunization schedule. That's the first thing. And then I would like to have uh, anyone that's heading a committee in the medical field under Bobby Kennedy should have medical knowledge. I don't think we should have a lot of administrators, which we seem to have a lot in a lot of committees, because they know the rules and they know the regulations. But you need doctors that have an open mind running medical problems in the government.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being back
Thank
on
you for
Pediatric
having me.
Perspectives.
It's wonderful.
Yes, and thank you for all your courage standing up for what you've stood up for, and I wish you the best in your lawsuit.
Thank you. I hope I prevail.
I hope so too. Well, folks, I'm Dr. Paul. Thank you for watching. My book, Vax Facts, will give you the pros and the cons of all the vaccines. There's tables in the back of that book that show that for every single vaccine on the childhood schedule, your risk of death, we're just talking death here, there's lots of other risks, your risk of death is higher from the vaccine than it is from the disease for which you might be vaccinating. Let that sink in, do your research, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Tell us your name.
My name is Sarah Keller.
Well, now you look really healthy.
I am, actually.
Are we allowed to ask how old you are?
I am 42.
42, and you've never had a vaccine at all?
Not one, ever. No.
Why? Why do your parents not vaccinate? How irresponsible.
They're really smart.
Yeah, what do they do for a living?
They're chiropractors.
There you go.
They're chiropractors. And they have been my health and wellness practitioners my entire life. I mean, I have not been to medical doctors, for the most part, for anything in my life. So I've been very lucky and very fortunate.
I know, I always say to the young kids today, marry a chiropractor.
Right.
I mean, seriously, or become a chiropractor, whatever. So, what was the worst illness you've ever had? Because no one said that being unvaccinated, you're not going to get sick, right?
Oh my goodness. I think I got leptospirosis from my dog.
Wait, what is that even?
It's like a bacterial infection.
And what happened to you?
That was the first time I ever had to take antibiotics in my life. And I literally had never been to a doctor for anything. And my dad was like, no, this one, you don't mess with bacterial infections. You should go to urgent care.
So how old were you when that happened?
It was 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, so what was it like taking antibiotics for the first time?
Did
it work? I mean, did you just feel great?
No, I did not feel great
No,
at all.
but I mean, I always wonder what it's like to be, get to 40 or 42 and take your first round of antibiotics. Most of us have had buttloads of antibiotics.
I mean, I didn't want to take them, but I knew I did not feel good.
No, there's a time and a place for antibiotics. No one's saying that it's not a brilliant invention.
Right.
So many of us have had our lives saved by it. Mm-hmm. It's just the overuse.
So much overuse, right? I mean, there's so much out there that is preventative healthcare, right? Health and wellness, and the food we eat, the environment we live in, the things we put on our bodies and in our bodies, those are all super important. And I think there's a way to live without being vaccinated and being worried all the time about all of those things.
That's right. Now, do you have children?
I do.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
And did you vaccinate them?
I did not choose to, no.
Oh no, not another New York court mandated. What is going on in this place?
I did not choose to.
It's only this state that we're hearing about this. There's something evil going on here.
Yeah. Well, I would get out of New York if I could.
But if you're in that situation, that must be extremely painful. I'm sorry.
It's not ideal, but, I am I at least have that preventative health care, and my kids are 10 and 13 and have very healthy immune systems and never been messed with in any other way before. So at least they had a fully developed immune system, whereas, before too, they don't have that. So luckier than a lot.
I'm just absolutely shocked by what's got since we entered New York.
Yeah, New York is...
We haven't heard this anywhere else. We may hear it in California. I don't know, because that's a kind of crazy place as well.
Yeah, I feel like California is
definitely hear
first,
that.
and New York is
Yeah.
second on that list.
And you're
Yeah.
not allowed to leave the state,
Well, their father and I are not together.
obviously.
So, yes. Yeah. So, because of our differences in opinion, we went
Okay.
to court, all of that.
Let's not talk about that. It's just too stressful.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
concentrate on how you are unvaccinated,
I like
super
it.
healthy. Now, I've got to ask you some questions. Do you have cancer?
No.
Do you have Lyme disease?
No.
Do you have mental illness?
No.
Are you on medication?
None.
Do you have any autoimmune disease? Yeah, you can.
Zero.
Anyone else can ask her any questions.
None.
Do you have eczema, asthma?
Nothing. No allergies, no
Chronic ear
eczema,
infection.
no, never had
Strep
ear
throat.
infection, never had strep throat. I mean, I see it in my kids are generationally, right? We don't have any, entire my sister is not vaccinated, her kids are not vaccinated. There is not one allergy, there is not one, no one has asthma, no one, just no autoimmune diseases across the board. And it just, nowadays you can't go to a classroom, a school, everybody has allergies, everybody has sensitivities. Half of the people have asthma. I mean, it's night and day. We just don't get sick very often, and if we do, we take apple cider vinegar and garlic and we boost our immune systems, and if we get a cold, maybe it's a day or two and then it's gone.
Is there anything else you want to tell the people?
I think the biggest thing is knowing that it's possible and to not be afraid, right? We're instilled to believe that, your child is born, they have to get a shot, they have to get eye cream, they have to get vaccinated, that there should be more knowledge, yes, about the risks, but also about how there are other choices, and you should be free to make those choices, and that there should be affirmation that you can be healthy and without fear. I've traveled the world, I've gone on vacation, I have not lived in a sheltered home, I'm not afraid, and I'm healthy. I think that those choices, they don't seem like choices when you're pregnant and having children, right? You don't have that choice. You think that's the way it's supposed to be, what your doctor tells you. So I think knowing that there is another choice and that it's okay and that you shouldn't be afraid is empowering.
You're empowering. Okay, well, thank you for doing this interview and showing us how wrong these people are when they shout, it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated are going to die. Your child's going to die. Everyone's going to die unless you take this vaccine. Well, clearly not.
No, not at all. Thank you for helping get the word out to everyone. And
Well, it's
sharing
Children's
your
Self Defence.
story.
They're a great
They
organisation.
are.
A load of people working behind the scenes to make this happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Polly.